Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Kupesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prisabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhupya Eva Cha पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् शृण्वतं स्वकथाः कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनारिद्यन्दस्तोय भद्राणि विदुनुति सुहृत्सतां नष्टप्राये स्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भागवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Before reciting the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Shila Vyasadeva, the author. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, which is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Haribol, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Hmm. We need to find the volume 3.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam to all of you.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining, Prabhu. Oh, I think we found it. Haribol. Is it here? What is this? Haribol. Okay, I think this is last part of Canto 1. Where it is? Where did it go? Oh, where is Lebohang Prabhu?
Dhanavad Pranam Dhirek Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dheeraj Prabhu, Dandat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you for joining, Prabhu. Oh, here's some pictures. Quickly, we can see this. Here is Maharaj Parikshit. Krishna is saving him. Queen Kunti here. Oh, here is Mahatma Vidura describing his personal experience in the palace of the Pandavas. What is this? Remembering
Yes,
Lord.
Prabhu.
Oh, yes, Prabhu. Remembering Lord Krishna and his well-wishes, benefactions, intimate familiar relation, and chariot driving, Arjuna, overwhelmed with and breathing very heavily, began to speak. Oh. Here Arjuna is piercing the fish target and thereby gaining the hand of Draupadi. Where is the fish? Hmm. Bhimasena was able to kill the demon Jarasandha. Oh, really beautiful pictures. Krishna is joking. Who is this? Is Arjuna? Frank talks which were pleasing and beautifully decorated with smiles are now remembered by me. Here is the spiritual world. Here is the small portion of the spiritual world is the material covering. Here is Goloka Vrindavan, which is much bigger than spiritual planets. It's huge. So here's Maharaj Yudhishthira going north. And here is the Kali Yuga personified, trying to hurt the cow who is crying, and the bull. Hmm. And here is Lord Shri Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Haribol. This is my favorite picture of Krishna. Those who are desirous of achieving complete perfection in life must submissively hear all topics that are connected with the transcendental activities and qualities of Personality of Godhead who acts wonderfully. Oh, so many pictures. What is this? Oh, three more. King Parikshit rewarded the sage coldly by offering him a garland of a dead snake. So this is why he was cursed. After hearing from his sons that the king had been cursed, the sage repented his son's sinful act. So here is the sage's son who cursed Maharaj Parikshit to die by the Takshaka bird, snake bird. And here is all demigods living in the higher planets praise the action of king, and in pleasure they continually scattered flowers over the earth. So here's Maharaj Parikshit hearing the Bhagavatam. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, third verse, Canto, volume 3, chapter 13, Dhritarashtra home. Who wants to read the first text?
Yes, Prabhu, I can read.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Haribol.
Sutavacha विदुरतीर्थयात्रायां मैत्रेयादात्मनो गतिं ज्ञात्वा हस्तिनपुरं दयावाप्तविवेचितः श्री सूत Goswami said, Vidur Tirthayatraya, while traveling to different places of pilgrimage, Maitreya from the great sage Maitreya, Atman of the self, Gatim destination, Jnata by knowing it, Agat went back. Hastinapuram, the city of Hastinapur, there by that knowledge, after sufficiently gainer with being well versed in everything, knowledge. Yes, Prabhu, school translation and purport by His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada की जय. Sri Sud Goswami said while traveling on a pilgrimage, Vidra received knowledge of the destination of the self from the great sage Maitreya and then returned to Hastinapur. He became as well versed in the subject as he desired. Purport. Vidra, one of the prominent figures in the history of Mahabharata, he was conceived by Vyasdeva in the womb of the maid servant of Ambalika, mother of Maharaj Pandu. He is incarnation of Yamraj. Being cast by Manduk Muni, he was to become a Sudra. The yes, Prabhu, scroll some down, Prabhu. I cannot see. Yes. The story is narrated as follows. Once upon a time, the state police caught some thieves who concealed themselves in the hermitage of Manduk Muni. The police constables, as usual, arrested all the thieves and Manduk Muni along with them. The magistrate specifically punished the Muni to death by being pierced with a lance when he was just to be pierced. The news reached the king and he at once stopped the act of on consideration of his being great Muni. The king personally picked the Muni's pardon for mistake of his men, and the saint at once went to Yamraj, who prescribes the destiny of living beings. Yamraj being questioned by Muni, yes, please cool down some. Little more, Prabhu. Prabhu? Yes. Muni replied that the Muni in his childhood pierced an ant with a sharpened straw, and for that reason he was put into difficulty. The Muni thought it unwise on the part of Yamraj that he was punished for his childish innocence, and thus the Muni caused Yamraj to become a Sudra, and this Sudra incarnation of Yamraj was known as Vidra, the Sudra brother of Dhritarashtra and Maharaj Pandu. But this Sudra son of Kuru dynasty, was equally treated by Bhismadeva along with his other nephews, and in due course, Vidra was married with a girl who was also born in the womb of a Sudrani. Vidra was married with a girl who was also born in the womb of Sudrani by a Brahmana. Although Vidra was not inherit the property of his father, the brother of his neighbor, still he was given sufficient state property by Dhritarashtra, the elder brother of Vidura. Vidura was very much attached to his elder brother, and all along he tried to guide him in the yes, pro school up. All along he tried to guide him in the right path. During the patricial war of Kurukshetra, Vidura repeatedly implored his elder brother to do justice to the son of Pandu, but Duryodhan did not like such interference by his uncle, and thus he practically insulted Vidura. This resulted in Vidura's leaving home for pilgrimage and taking instruction from Maitreya. Yes, bro, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shubham Prabhu. यावतः कृतवान् प्रश्नान् क्षत्ता कौशारवाकृता जातैकभक्तिर्गोविन्दे तेभ्यश्चोपाररामः Yavantaha, all that Kritavan did he put Prashnan questions, Kshatta, a name of Vidura, Kausharava, a name of Maitreya, Agrita in the presence of Jata, having grown up, Eka one, Bhakti transcendental loving service, Govinde unto Lord Krishna, Tebya regarding future questions, Sha and Upararama retired from Ha in the past. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. After asking various questions and becoming established in the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna, Vidura retired from putting questions to Maitreya Muni. Purport. Vidura retired from putting questions before Maitreya Muni when he was convinced by Maitreya Rishi that the summum bonum of life is to be finally situated in the transcendental loving service of Lord Shri Krishna, who is Govinda, or one who satisfies his devotees in all respects. The conditioned soul or living being in material existence seeks happiness by employing his senses in the modes of materialism. But that cannot give him satisfaction. He then searches after the supreme truth by the empiric philosophical speculative method and intellectual feats. But if he does not find the ultimate goal, he again goes down to the material activities and engages himself in various philanthropic and altruistic works, which all fail to give him satisfaction. So neither fruitive activities nor dry philosophical speculation can give one satisfaction, because by nature a living being is the eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, and all the Vedic literature give him direction towards that ultimate end. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this statement. Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Like Vidura, an inquisitive conditioned soul must approach a bona fide spiritual master like Maitreya, and by intelligent inquiries must try to know everything about karma, fruitive activities, jnana, philosophical research for the supreme truth, and yoga, the linking process of spiritual realization. One who is not seriously inclined to put questions before a spiritual master need not accommodate a show battle spiritual master, nor should a person who may be a spiritual master for others pose to be so if he is unable to engage his disciples ultimately in the transcendental loving service of Lord Sri Krishna. What a nice part. One who is not seriously inclined to put questions before a spiritual master need not accommodate a show battle spiritual master, nor should a person who may be spiritual master for others pose to be so if he is unable to engage his disciples ultimately in the transcendental loving service of Lord Sri Krishna. Vidura was successful in approaching a spiritual master like Maitreya, and he got the ultimate goal of life, bhakti, unto Govinda. Thus there was nothing to be known further about spiritual progress. Text number 3 to 4. Tam bandhumagatam drishtva dharmaputra sahanuja tritarastro yuyuchuscha shutah sharatvatah prita Gandhari Draupadi Brahman Subhadra Chottara Kripi Anyascha Janmayah Pandor Jnanat Gnatayah Sasutah Striya Tam him bandum relative agatam, having arrived there, Drishtva by seeing it, Dharmaputra Yudhishthira Saha Anujaha, along with his younger brothers, Dhritarashtra, Yuyutsuhu, Satyaki, Cha, and Taha Sanjaya, Sharadvata, Kripacharya, Prita Kunti, Gandhari, Draupadi, Brahman, O Brahmanas, Subhadra, Cha and Uttara, Kripi, Anya, others, Cha and Janmaya, wives of other family members, Pando of the Pandavas, Gnatayaha, family members, Sasutaha, along with their sons, Striya, the ladies. Translation. When they saw Vidura return to the palace, all the inhabitants, Maharaj Yudhishthira, his younger brothers, Dhritarashtra, Satyaki, Sanjaya, Kripacharya, Kunti, Gandhari, Draupadi, Subhadra, Uttara, Kripi, and many others, who were wives of the Kauravas, and other ladies with children, all hurried to him in great delight. It so appeared that they had regained their consciousness after a long period. Purport. Gandhari, the ideal chaste lady in the history of the world, she was the daughter of Maharaj Shubala and the king of Gandhara, now Kandara in Kabul. And in her maiden state, she worshipped Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is worshipped generally by the Hindu maidens to get a good husband. Gandhari satisfied Lord Shiva, and by his benediction to obtain 100 sons, she was betrothed to Dhritarashtra, despite his being blind forever. When Gandhari became to know that her would-be husband was a blind man, to follow her life companion, she decided to become voluntarily blind. So she wrapped up her eyes with many silk linens, and she was married to Dhritarashtra under the guidance of her elder brother Shakuni. She was the most beautiful girl of her time, and she was equally qualified by her womanly qualities, which endeared every member of the Kaurava court. But despite all her good qualities, she had the natural frailties of a woman, and she was envious of Kunti, when the latter gave birth to a male child. Both the queens were pregnant, but Kunti first gave birth to a male child. Thus Gandhari became angry and gave a blow to her own abdomen. As a result, she gave birth to a lump of flesh only. But since she was a devotee of Vyasadeva, by instruction of Vyasadeva, the lump was divided into 100 parts, and each part gradually developed to become a male child. Thus her ambition to become the mother of 100 sons was fulfilled, and she began to nourish all the children according to her exalted position. When the intrigue of the battlefield of Kurukshetra was going on, she was not in favor of fighting with the Pandavas. Rather, she blamed Dhritarashtra, her husband, for such a fratricidal war. She desired that the state be divided into two parts for the sons of Pandu and her own. She was very affected when all her sons died in the battle of Kurukshetra, and she wanted to curse Bhimasena and Yudhishthira, but she was tricked by Vyasadeva. Her mourning over the death of Duryodhana and Dushasana before Lord Krishna is very pitiful, and Lord Krishna pacified her by a transcendental message. She was equally aggrieved of the death of Karna, and she described to Lord Krishna the lamentation of Karna's wife. She was pacified by Srila Vyasadeva when he showed her dead sons, then promoted to the heavenly kingdoms. She died along with her husband in the jungle of the Himalayas near the mouth of the Ganga. She burned in a forest fire. Pritha, daughter of Maharaj Shurasena and sister of Vasudeva, Lord Krishna's father. Later she was adopted. Daughter of Maharaj Shurasena and sister of Vasudeva, Lord Krishna's father. Later she was adopted by Maharaj Kunti Bhoja, and hence she is known as Kunti. She is the incarnation of the success potency of the personality of Godhead. The heavenly denizens from the upper planets used to visit the palace of the king Kunti Bhoja, and Kunti was engaged for their reception. She also served the great mystic sage Durvasa, and being satisfied by her faithful service, Durvasa Muni gave her a mantra by which it was possible for her to call for any demigod she pleased. As a matter of inquisitiveness, she had once called for the sun god, who desired compliment with her, but she declined. But the sun god assured her immunity from virgin adulteration, and so she agreed to his proposal. As a result of this couplement, she became pregnant, and Karna was born by her. By the grace of the sun, she began turned into a virgin girl, but being afraid of her parents, she quitted the newly born child Karna. After that, when she actually selected her own husband, she preferred Pandu to be her husband. Maharaj Pandu later on wanted to retire from family life and adopt the renounced order of life. Kunti refused to allow her husband to adopt such a life, but at least Maharaj Pandu gave her permission to become a mother of sons by calling some other suitable personalities. Well, what this means? Maharaj Pandu later on wanted to retire from family life and adopt the renounced order of life. Kunti refused to allow her husband to adopt such a life, but at least Maharaj Pandu gave her permission to become mother of sons by calling some other suitable personalities. Kunti did not accept this proposal at first, but when vivid examples were set by Pandu, she agreed. Thus, by the end of the mantra worded by Durvasa Muni, she called for Dharmaraja, and thus Yudhishthira was born. She called for demigod Vayu, air, and thus Bhima was born. She called for Indra, the king of heaven, and thus Arjuna was born. The other two sons, namely Nakula and Sahadeva, were begotten by Pandu himself in the womb of Madri. Later on, Maharaj Pandu died at an early age, for which Kunti was so aggrieved that she fainted. Two co-wives, namely Kunti and Madri, decided that Kunti should live for the maintenance of the five minor children. The Pandavas and Madri should accept the sati rituals by meeting voluntary death along with her husband. This agreement was endorsed by great sages like Shatasringa and others present on the occasion. Later on, when the Pandavas were banished from the kingdom by the intricacies of Duryodhana, Kunti followed her sons, and she equally faced all sorts of difficulties during those days. During the forest life, one demon girl, Hidimbi, wanted Bhima as her husband, which was refused by Bhima. But when the girl approached Kunti and Yudhishthira, they ordered Bhima to accept her proposal and give her a son. As a result of this combination, Gatot Gatotkach. Oh, this is like Russian name. Who is this? As a result of combination, Gatotkach was born, and he fought very valiantly with his father against the Kauravas. Really difficult name. In their forest life, they lived with a Brahmana family that was in trouble because of one Bakasura demon, and Kunti ordered Bhima to kill the Bakasura to protect the Brahmana family against troubles created by the demon. She advised Yudhishthira to start for the Panchala Desha. Draupadi was gained in the Panchala Desha by Arjuna, but by order of Kunti, all the five brothers of the Pandavas became equally the husbands of Panchali or Draupadi. She was married with five Pandavas in the presence of Vyasadeva. Kunti Devi never forgot her first child Karna, and after Karna's death in the battle of Kurukshetra, she lamented and admitted before her other sons that Karna was her eldest son prior to her marriage with Maharaj Pandu. After the battle of Kurukshetra, when Lord Krishna was going back home, her prayers for the Lord are excellently explained. Later she went to the forest with Gandhari for severe penance. She used to take meals after each 30 days. She finally sat down in a profound meditation and later burned to ashes in a forest fire. Draupadi. Ooh, what happened? The most chaste daughter of Maharaj Draupada, and partly an incarnation of goddess Sachi, the wife of Indra. Maharaj Draupada performed a great sacrifice under the superintendence of the sage Yaja. By his first offering, Drishtadyumna was born, and by the second offering, Draupadi was born. She is therefore the sister of Drishtadyumna, and she is also named Panchali. The five Pandavas married her as a common wife, and each of them begot a son in her. Maharaj Yudhishthira begot a son named Pratibind. Bhimashena begot a son named Sutasome. Arjuna begot Shruta Kirti, Nakula begot Satanika, and Sahadeva begot Shruta Kama. She is described as a most beautiful lady, equal to her mother-in-law Kunti. During her birth, there was an our message that she should be called Krishna. Krishna. The same message also declared that she is born to kill many a Kshatriya. By dint of her blessings from Shankara, she was awarded 5 husbands equally qualified. When she preferred to select her own husband, princes and kings were invited from all countries of the world. She was married with Pandavas during their exile in the forest, but when they went back home, Maharaj Draupada gave them immense wealth as a dowry. She was well received by all daughters-in-law of Dhritarashtra. When she was lost in a gambling game, she was forcibly dragged into the assembly hall, and an attempt was made to see her naked beauty by Dushasana, even though there were elderly persons like Bhishma and Drona present. She was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, and by her praying, the Lord himself became an unlimited garment to save her from the insult. A demon of the name Jatasura kidnapped her, but her second husband, Bhimashena, killed the demon and saved her. She saved the Pandavas from the curse of Maharshi Durvasa by the grace of Lord Krishna. When the Pandavas lived incognito in the palace of Virata, Kichaka was attracted by her exquisite beauty, and by arrangement with Bhima, the devil was killed and she was saved. She was very much aggrieved when her 5 sons were killed by Ashwatthama. At the last stage, she accompanied her husband Yudhishthira and others and fell on the way. The cause of her falling was explained by Yudhishthira, but when Yudhishthira entered the heavenly planet, she saw Draupadi gloriously present there as goddess of fortune in the heavenly planet. Hmm. Subhadra, daughter of Vasudeva, the sister of Lord Sri Krishna. She was not only a very dear daughter of Vasudeva, but also a very dear sister to both Krishna and Baladeva. The two brothers and sisters are represented in the famous Jagannath temple of Puri, and the temple is still visited by thousands of pilgrims daily. This temple is in remembrance of the Lord's visit at Kurukshetra during an occasion of solar eclipse and his subsequent meeting with the residents of Vrindavan. The meeting of Radha and Krishna during this occasion is a very pathetic story, and Lord Sri Krishna, in the ecstasy of Radharani, always pined for Lord Krishna at Jagannath Puri. What means pined? Pinned. Is it pinned? Yeah, not pined. While Arjuna was at Dvaraka, he wanted to have Shubhadra as his queen, and he expressed his desire to Lord Krishna. Sri Krishna knew that his elder brother Lord Baladeva was arranging her marriage elsewhere, and since he did not dare to go against the arrangement of Baladeva, he advised Arjuna to kidnap Shubhadra. So when all of them were on a pleasure trip on the Raivata hill, Arjuna managed to kidnap Shubhadra according to the plan of Sri Krishna. Sri Baladeva was very angry at Arjuna, and he wanted to kill him, but Lord Krishna implored his brother to excuse Arjuna. Then Subhadra was duly married with Arjuna, and Abhimanyu was born of Subhadra. At the premature death of Abhimanyu, Subhadra was very mortified, but on birth of Parikshit, she was happy and solaced. Ribo. Oh, Pranjal Prabhu, are you on the computer or are you on the phone?
Bro.
Are you on the computer or phone?
Mm.
Can you scroll? Oh, Haribol, yes, okay, nice. So who wants to read next? Hare Krishna, Praveen Prabhu, Dandar Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Amit Prabhu, Dandar Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hey, Hare Krishna Prabhu, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Haribol.
I can read Prabhu, it's okay.
Hare Krishna, Dhanrod, Pranam, Amit Prabhu and Praveen Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Shubham Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Okay, this is text 5 of chapter 13.
Yes, Prabhu.
Dhritarashtra, what is the chapter name? Dhritarashtra, something related to Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra quiz home, okay. Okay, text 5, okay. Jagmuhu प्रहर्षेण प्राणं तन्व इवागतम् अभिषङ्गम्य विधिवत् परिष्वङ्गाभिवादनैः प्रति टुवर्ड्स उजग्मुः went praharshena with great delight pranam life tanvaha of the body iva like agatam returned back abhishangamya approaching vidhivat in due form parishwanga embracing abhivadanaihi by obeisances. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. With great delight, they all approached him, as if life returned to their bodies. They engaged obeisances and welcomed each other with embraces. Purport: In the absence of consciousness, the limbs of the body remain inactive. But when consciousness returns, the limbs and senses become active, and existence itself becomes delightful. Vidura was so dear to the members of the Kaurava family that his long absence from the palace was comparable to inactivity. All of them were feeling acute. Did I miss any line? No. All of them were feeling acute separation from Vidura, and therefore his return to the palace was joyful for all. Text 6. Mumuchuhu prema bhashpaugham virahaut kantatya kataraha rajatam arhyan kar chakre kritasana parigraham mumuchuhu emanated prema affectionate bashpaugham emotional tears viraha separation outkantya anxiousness kataraha being aggrieved raja king yudhishthira tam unto him vidura arhayan reception chakre offered krita performance of asana sitting accommodations parigraham arrangement of. Translation: due to anxieties and long separation, they all cried out of affection. King Yudhishthira then arranged to offer seating accommodations and a reception. There is no purport here. Text 7. Tam bhuktavantam vishrantam asinam sukham asane prashraya vanato raja praha tesham cha shrinvatam tam him vidura Bhuktavantam, after feeding him sumptuously, Vishrantam, and having taken rest, Asinam, being seated, Sukham Asane, on a comfortable seat, Prashraya Avanataha, naturally very gentle and meek, Raja, King Yudhishthira, Praha, began to speak, Teshamcha, and by them, Shinvatam, being heard. Translation. After Vidra ate sumptuously and took sufficient rest, he was comfortably seated. Then the king began to speak to him, and all who were present there listened. Purport. King Yudhishthira was expert in reception also, even in the case of his family members. Vidura was well received by all the family members by exchange of embraces and obeisances. After that, bathing and arrangements for a sumptuous dinner were made, and then he was given sufficient rest. After finishing his rest, he was offered a comfortable place to sit, and then the king began to talk about all happenings, both family and otherwise. That is the proper way to receive a beloved friend or even an enemy. According to Indian moral codes, even an enemy received at home should be so well received that he will not feel any fearful situation. An enemy is always afraid of his enemy. But this should not be so when he is received at home by his enemy. This means that a person who received at home should be treated as a relative. So, what to speak of a family member like Vidra, who was a well-wisher for all the members of the family. Thus, Yudhishthira Maharaj began to speak in the presence of all other members. Yudhishthira Api Smarathayo Yushmat Paksh Pakshach Chaya Samedhitan Vipad Ganad Vishagneirder Mochita Yat Sa Matrikaha Yudhishthira Vacha Maharaj Yudhishthira said, Api, whether Smarata, you remember Naha as Ushmat from you, Pakshat partiality towards us like the wings of a bird. Like the wings of a bird. Okay. Shaya, protection. Samedhitan, we who were brought up by you. Vipat Ganat, from various types of calamities. Visha, by administration of poison. Agnadeh, by setting on fire. Mochitaham, released from Yat, what you have done. Sa, along with Matkrikaha, our mother. Matrikaha, our mother. Translation. Maharaj Yudhishthira said, my uncle, do you remember how you always protected us, along with our mother, from all sorts of calamities? Your partiality, like the wings of a bird, saved us from poisoning and erosion. Erson. What is that word, bro? Erson? Can you see what it is, what it means? Erson. Poisoning and erson, maybe the fire, maybe.
Yes, Prabhu, it means burning.
Burning, okay, yeah, something related to fire. Okay. Purport. Due to Pandu's death at an early age, his minor children and widow were the object of special care by all the elderly members of the family, especially Bhishmadeva and Mahatma Vidra. Vidura was more or less partial to the Pandavas due to their political position. Although Dhritarashtra was equal carefully for the minor children of Maharaj Pandu, he was one of the intriguing parties who wanted to wash away the descendants of Pandu and replace them by raising his own sons to become the rulers of the kingdom. Mahatma Vidura could follow the intrigue of Dhritarashtra and company And therefore, even though he was a faithful servitor of his eldest brother Dhritarashtra, he did not like his political ambition for the sake of his own sons. He was therefore very careful about the protection of the Pandavas and their widow mother. Thus, he was, so to speak, partial to the Pandavas, preferring them to the sons of Dhritarashtra, although both of them were equally affectionate in his ordinary eyes. He was equally affectionate to both the camps of nephews in the sense that he always chastised Duryodhana for his intriguing policy against his cousins. He always criticized his elder brother for his policy of encouragement to his sons, and at the same time, he was always alert in giving special protection to the Pandavas. All these different activities of Vidura within the palace politics made him well known as partial to the Pandavas. Maharaj Yudhishthira has referred to the past history of Vidura before his going away from home for a prolonged pilgrim's journey. Maharaj Yudhishthira reminded him that he was equally kind and partial to his grown-up nephews even after the Battle of Kurukshetra, a great family disaster. Before the Battle of Kurukshetra, Dhritarashtra's policy was peaceful annihilation of his nephews, and therefore he ordered Purochana to build a house at Va- Varanavata, and when the building was finished, Dhritarashtra desired that his brother's family live there for some time. When the Pandavas were going there in the presence of all the members of the royal family, Vidura tactfully gave instructions to the Pandavas about the future of Dhritarashtra. This is specifically described in the Mahabharata, chapter 144, Adiparva. He indirectly hinted a weapon not made of steel or any other material element can be more than sharp to kill an enemy, and he who knows this is never killed. A weapon not made of steel or any other can be more than sharp to kill an enemy. Okay. This is to say, he hinted that the party of the Pandavas was being sent to Varanavat to be killed, and thus he warned Yudhishthira to be very careful in their new residential palace. He also gave indications of fire and said that fire cannot extinguish the soul, but it can annihilate the material body. But one who protects the soul can live. Kunti could not follow such indirect conversations between Maharaj Yudhishthira and Vidura, and thus, when she inquired from her son about the purport of the conversation, Yudhishthira replied that from the talks of Vidura, it was understood that there was a hint of fire, okay, in the house where they were proceeding. Later on, Vidura came in disguise to the Pandavas and informed them that the housekeeper was going to set fire to the house on the 14th night of the waning moon. It was an intrigue of Dhritarashtra that the Pandavas might die altogether with their mother, and by his warning, the Pandavas escaped through a tunnel underneath the earth so that their escape was also unknown to Dhritarashtra, so much so that after setting the fire, the Kauravas were so certain of the death of the Pandavas that Dhritarashtra performed the last rites of death with great cheerfulness. And during the morning period, all the members of the palace became overwhelmed with lamentation, but Vidura did not become so because of his knowledge that the Pandavas were alive somewhere. There are many such instances of calamities, and in each of them, Vidura gave protection to the Pandavas on one hand, and on the other, he tried to restrain his brother Dhritarashtra from such intriguing policies. Therefore, he was always partial to the Pandavas, just as a bird protects its eggs by his wing. Text 9. Kaya vritya vartitam vas charadbihi shkiti mandalam तीर्थानि क्षेत्र मुखयानि सेवितानीह भूतले कया by which vritya means vartitam maintained your livelihood vaha your good self charat bihi while traveling kshiti mandalam on the surface of the earth, tirthani, places of pilgrimage, kshetra, mukhayani, the principal holy places, sevitani, served by you, iha, in this world, bhutale, on this planet. Translation. While traveling on the surface of the earth, how did you maintain your livelihood? At which holy places and pilgrimages did you render service? Purport. Vidura went out from the palace to detach himself from household affairs, especially political intrigues. As referred to herein before, he was practically insulted by Duryodhana's calling him a son of a Sudrani. Although it was not out of place to talk loosely in the case of one's grandmother. Vidra's mother, although a Sudrani, was the grandmother of Duryodhana, and funny talks are sometimes allowed between grandmother and grandchildren. But because the remark was an actual fact, it was unpalatable talk for Vidra, and it was accepted as a direct insult. He therefore decided to quit his paternal house and prepare for the renounced order of life. This preparatory stage is called Vanaprasthasrama or retired life for traveling and visiting the holy places on the surface of the earth. In the holy places of India like Vrindavana, Hardwar, Jagannath Puri, Prayaga, etc., there are many great devotees and there are still free kitchen houses for persons who desire to advance spiritually. Maharaj Yudhishthira was inquisitive to learn whether Vidra maintained himself by the mercy of the free kitchen houses, Chatras. Text 10. Bhavadvidha Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhutaha Swayam Vibho Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani Swantah Stena Gadhabhrata Bhavat, your good self, Vidaha, like Vidaha, like Bhagavataha, devotees, Tirtha, the holy places of pilgrimage, Bhutaha, converted into Swayam, personally, Vibho, O powerful one, Tirthi Kurvanti, make into a holy place of pilgrimage. Tirthani, the holy places. Swantaha Stena, having been situated in the heart. Swantaha Stena, having been situated in the heart. Gadabhrata, the personality of Godhead. Translation. My Lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified. Because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart, you turn all places into places of pilgrimage. Purport. The personality of Godhead is omnipresent by his diverse potencies everywhere, just as electricity power is distributed everywhere within space. Similarly, the Lord's omnipresence is perceived and manifested by his unalloyed devotees like Vidura, just as electricity is manifested in an electric bulb. A pure devotee like Vidra always feels the presence of the Lord everywhere. He sees everything in the potency of the Lord and the Lord in everything. The holy places all over the earth are meant for purifying the polluted consciousness of the human being by an atmosphere surcharged with the presence of the Lord's unalloyed devotees. If anyone visits a holy place, he must search out the pure devotees residing in such holy places, take lessons from them, try to apply such instructions in practical life, and thus gradually prepare oneself for the ultimate salvation, going back to Godhead. To go to some holy place of pilgrimage does not mean only to take a bath in the Ganges or Yamuna or to visit the temples situated in those places. One should also find out representatives of Vidura who have no other desire in life save and expect to serve the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead is always with such pure devotees because of their unalloyed service, which is without any tinge of fruitive action. They are in the actual service of the Lord, specifically by the process of hearing and chanting. The pure devotees hear from the authorities and chant, sing, and write of the glories of the Lord. Mahamuni Vyasadeva heard from Narada, and then he chanted in writing. Sukadeva Goswami studied from his father, and he described it to Parikshit. That is the way of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So, by their actions, the pure devotees of the Lord can render any place into a place of pilgrimage, and the holy places are worth the name only on their account. Such pure devotees are able to rectify the polluted atmosphere of any place, and what to speak of a holy place rendered unholy by the questionable actions of interested persons who try to adopt a professional life at the cost of the reputation of a holy place. Text 11. Apinah Sukridhas Tata Bandhavaha Krishna Devataha Drishtaha Srutava Yadavaha Swapuryam Sukham Asate Api, whether Naha, our Sukhridha, well-wishers, Tata, oh my uncle, Bandavaha, friends, Krishna Devataha, those who are always wrapped in the service of Lord Sri Krishna, Drishtaha, by seeing them, Srutaha, or by hearing about them, Va, either, Yada, I have not completed to, Va, Yadavaha, that the descendants of Yadu, Swapuryam, along with their residential place, Sukham Asate, if they are all happy. Translation. My uncle, you must have visited Dwarka. In that holy place, there are our friends and well-wishers, the descendants of Yadu, who are always wrapped in the service of the Lord Sri Krishna. You might have seen them or heard about them. Are they all living happily in their abodes? Purport. The particular word Krishna Devata, that is, those who are always wrapped in the service of Lord Krishna, is significant. The Yadavas and the Pandavas, who were always wrapped in the thought of the Lord Krishna and his different transcendental activities, were all pure devotees of the Lord like Vidura. Vidura left home in order to devote himself completely to the service of the Lord. But the Pandavas and the Yadavas were all always wrapped in the thought of Lord Krishna. Thus, there is no difference in their pure devotional qualities, either remaining at home or leaving home. The real qualification of a pure devotee is to become wrapped in the thought of Krishna favorably, that is, knowing well that Lord Krishna is the absolute personality of Godhead. Kamsa, Jarasandha, Shishupala, and other demons like them were also always wrapped in the thought of Lord Krishna, but they were absorbed in a different way, namely unfavorably, all thinking him to be a powerful man only. Therefore, Kamsa and Shishupala are not on the same level of pure devotees like Vidura, the Pandavas, or the Yadavas. Maharaj Yudhishthira was also always wrapped in the thought of Lord Krishna and his associates of Dwaraka. Otherwise, he would not have asked all about them from Vidura. Maharaj Yudhishthira is therefore on the same level of devotion as Vidura. although engaged in the state affairs of the kingdom of the world. Text 12. इत्युक्तो धर्मराजेन सर्वं तत् समवर्णयत् यथानुभूतं क्रमशो विना यदु कुलक्षयम् इति. Thus uktah, being asked Dharmarajena by King Yudhishthira, sarvam, all, tat, that, samavarnayat, properly described, yatha anubhutam, as he experienced, kramasaha, one after another, vina, without, yadu kulakshayam, annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. Translation. Thus, being questioned by Maharaj Yudhishthira, Mahatma Vidura gradually described everything that he personally experienced, except news of the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. Text 13. Nanva priyam durvishaham nृणाम स्वयं उपस्थितं नावेदयत् सकुर्नो दुःखितान् दृष्टुतम् अक्षमः ननु. As a matter of fact, apriyam, unpalatable, durvishaham, unbearable, pranam, of humankind, swayam, in its own way, upastitam, appearance, na, did not, avedayat, expressed, sakarnaha, compassionate, dukkhitan, distressed, drishtum, to see, akshamaha, unable. Translation. Compassionate Mahatma Vidura could not stand to see the Pandavas distressed at any time. Therefore, he did not disclose this unpalatable and unbearable incidents, because calamities come of their own accord. Purport. According to Niti Shastra, civic laws, one should not speak an unpalatable truth to cause distress to others. Distress comes upon us in its own way by the laws of nature. So, one should not aggravate it by propaganda. For a compassionate soul like Vidura, especially in his dealings with their beloved Pandavas, it was almost impossible to disclose an unpalatable piece of news like the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. Therefore, purposely, he refrained from it. Therefore, purposely, he restrained from it. Text 14. Kanchit kalam athavatsit satkrito devavat sukham भ्रातुर्ज्येष्ठस्य श्रेयस्कृत सर्वेषां सुखम आवयन्. Kanchit, for a few days, kalam, time, ata, thus, avatsit, resided, satkritaha, being well treated, devavat, just like a godly personality, sukham, amenities, bhratuhu, of the brother, Jyeshtasya, of the elder, Shreyakrit, for doing good to him, Sarvesham, all others, Sukham, happiness, Avahan, made it possible. Translation. Thus, Mahatma Vidura, being treated just like a godly person by his kinsmen, remained there for a certain period just to pacify the mentality of his eldest brother, and in this way bring happiness to all the others. Purport. Saintly persons like Vidura must be treated as well as a denizen from heaven. In those days, denizens of heavenly planets used to visit homes like that of Maharaj Yudhishthira, and sometimes persons like Arjuna and others used to visit higher planets. Narada is a spaceman who can travel unrestrictedly, not only within the material universes but also in the spiritual universes. Even Narada used to visit the palace of Maharaj Yudhishthira, and what to speak of other celestial demigods. It is only the spiritual culture of the people concerned that makes interplanetary travel possible, even in the present body. Maharaj Yudhishthira therefore received Vidura in the manner of a reception offered to the demigods. Mahatma Vidura had already adopted the renounced order of life, and therefore he did not return to his paternal palace to enjoy the material comforts. He accepted out of his own mercy what was offered to him by Maharaj Yudhishthira, but the purpose of living in the palace was to deliver his too much materially attached elder brother Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra lost all his state and descendants in the fight with Maharaj Yudhishthira, and still due to his sense of helplessness, he did not feel ashamed to accept the charity and hospitality of Yudhishthira Maharaj Yudhishthira. On the part of Maharaja Yudhishthira, it was quite in order to maintain his uncle in a befitting manner, but acceptance of such magnanimous hospitality by Yudhishthira was not at all desirable. Of not at all desirable. He accepted it because he thought that there was no other alternative. Vidura particularly came to enlighten Dhritarashtra and to give him a lift to the higher status of spiritual cognition. It is the duty of enlightened souls to deliver the fallen ones, and Vidura came for that reason. But talks of spiritual enlightenment are so refreshing that while instructing Dhritarashtra, Vidura attracted the attention of all the members of the family, and all of them took pleasure in hearing him patiently. This is the way of spiritual realization. The message should be heard attentively, and if spoken by a realized soul, it will act on the dormant heart of the conditioned soul. And by continuously hearing, one can attain the perfect stage of self realization. Okay. Text 15. Abhibrarad Aryama Dandam यथावत् अगकारिषु यावद् दधार शूद्रत्वं शापाद् वर्षशतं यमः अभिभ्रता okay administrated aryama dandam punishment yathavat as it was suitable agakarishu unto the persons who committed sins yavat as long as dadhara accepted sudratvam the tabernacle of a sudra sapat as the result of a curse varshashatam for 100 years Yamaraja. Translation. As long as Vidura played the part of a Sudra being cursed by Manduka Muni, Aryama officiated at the post of Yamaraja to punish those who committed sinful acts. Purport. Vidura, born in the womb of a Sudra woman, was forbidden even to a party of royal heritage along with his brothers Dhritarashtra and Pandu. Then how could he occupy the post of a preacher to instruct such learned kings and kshatriyas as Dhritarashtra and Maharaja Yudhishthira? The first answer is that even though it is accepted that he was Sudra by birth, because he renounced the world for spiritual enlightenment by the authority of Rishi Maitreya and was thoroughly educated by him in transcendental knowledge. He was quite competent to occupy the post of an acharya or spiritual preceptor. According to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, anyone who is conversant in the transcendental knowledge or the science of Godhead, be he a Brahmana or a Sudra, a householder or a sannyasi, is eligible to become a spiritual master. Even in the ordinary moral codes maintained by Chanakya Pandit, the great politician moralist, there is no harm in taking lessons from a person who may be by birth less than a Sudra. This is one part of the answer. The other is that Vidura was not actually a Sudra. He was to play the part of a so-called Sudra for 100 years, being cursed by Manduka Muni. He was the incarnation of Yamaraj, one of the 12 Mahajanas on the level with such exalted personalities as Brahma, Narada, Shiva, Kapila, Bhishma, Prahlada, etc. etc. Being a Mahajana, it is the duty of Yamaraj to preach the cult of devotion to the people of the world, as Narada, Brahma, and other Mahajanas do. But Yamaraja is also busy in his Plutonic kingdom, punishing the doers of sinful acts. Yamaraja is deputed by the Lord to a particular planet some hundreds of thousands of miles away from the planet of Earth to take away the corrupt souls after death and convict them in accordance with their respective sinful activities. Thus, Yamaraja has very little time to take leave from his responsible office of punishing the wrongdoers. There are more wrongdoers than righteous men. Therefore, Yamaraja has to do more work than other demigods who are also authorized agents of the Supreme Lord. But he wanted to preach the glories of the Lord, and therefore, by the will of the Lord, he was cursed by Manduka Muni to come into the world in the incarnation of Vidra and work very hard as a great devotee. Such devotee is neither a Sudra nor a Brahmana. He is transcendental to such divisions of mundane society, just as the personality of Godhead assumes his incarnation as a hog. But he is neither a hog nor a Brahma. He is above all mundane creatures. The Lord and his different authorized devotees sometimes have to play the role of many lower creatures to climb the conditioned souls, but both the Lord and his pure devotees are always in the transcendental position. When Yamaraja thus incarnated himself as Vidra, his post was officiated by Aryama, one of the many sons of Kashyapa and Aditi. The Adityas are sons of Aditi, and there are 12 Adityas. Aryama is one of the 12 Adityas, and therefore it was quite possible for him to take charge of the office of Yamaraj during his 100 years absence in the form of Vidra. The conclusion is that Vidra was never a Sudra but was greater than the purest type of Brahmana. Text 16. Yudhishthiro labdharajyo drishtva pautram कुलान्धरम भ्रातृभिः भ्रातृभिर्लोक पालाभैर्मुमुदे परया श्रिया युधिष्ठिरा लब्ध राज्ञः possessing his parental kingdom दृष्ट्वा by seeing Pautram, the grandson, Kuladharam, just suitable for the dynasty, Vratadribihi, by the brothers, Loka Palabhaihi, who were all expert administrators, Mumude, enjoyed life, Paraya, uncommon, Sriya, opulence. Translation. Having won his kingdom and observed the birth of one grandson competent to continue the noble tradition of his family, Maharaj Yudhishthira reigned peacefully and enjoyed uncommon opulence in cooperation with his younger brothers, who were all expert administrators to the community. Purport. Both Maharaj Yudhishthira and Arjuna were unhappy from the beginning of the battle of Kurukshetra, but even though they were unwilling to kill their own men in the fight, it had to be done as a matter of duty, for it was planned by the supreme will of the Lord Sri Krishna. After the battle, Maharaj Yudhishthira was unhappy over such mass killings. Practically, there were none to continue the Kuru dynasty after them, the Pandavas. The only remaining hope was the child in the womb of his daughter-in-law Uttara, and he was also attacked by Aswadhama, but by the grace of the Lord, the child was saved. So, after the settlement of all disturbing conditions and re-establishment of the peaceful order of the state, and after seeing the surviving child Parikshit well satisfied, Maharaj felt some relief as a human being. Although he had very little attraction for material happiness, which is always illusory and temporary. Text 17. Evam griheshu saktanam pramattanam tadi. 1 second, bro. Please go up. Pramattanam tadihaya अत्यक्रेमद अविज्ञातः कालः परम दुष्टरः एवं thus गृहेषु in the family affairs saktanam of persons who are too attached, pramattanam insanely attached, tadihaya engrossed in such thoughts, atyakramat surpassed, avignataha imperceptibly, kalaha eternal time, parama supremely, dushtaraha insurmountable. Translation: insurmountable eternal time imperceptibly overcomes those who are too much attached to family affairs and are always engrossed in their thought. Purport: I am now happy. I have everything in order. My bank balance is quite enough. I can now give my children enough estate. I am now successful. The poor beggar sannyasis depend on God, but they come to beg from me. Therefore, I am more than the supreme God, etc. are some of the thoughts which engross the insanely attached householder who is blind to the passing of eternal time. Our duration of life is measured, and no one is able to enhance it even by a second against the scheduled time ordained by the supreme will. Such valuable time, especially for the human being, should be cautiously spent, because even a second passed away imperceptibly cannot be replaced, even in exchange of thousands of golden coins amassed by where is it? Hard labor. Every second of human life is meant for making an ultimate solution to the problems of life, that is, repetition of birth and death, and revolving in the cycle of 8,400,000. What is it? 80, okay. 84 lakhs. Different species of life. The material body, which is subject to birth and death, diseases and old age, is the cause of all sufferings of the living being. Otherwise, the living being is eternal. He is never born, nor does he ever exist. He is never born, nor does he ever die. Foolish persons forget this problem. They do not know at all how to solve the problems of life, but become engrossed in temporary family affairs without knowing that the eternal time is passing away imperceptibly, and their measured duration of life is diminishing every second without any solution of the big problem, namely repetition of birth and death, disease and old age. This is called illusion. But such illusion cannot work on one who is awake in devotional service of the Lord. Yudhishthira Maharaj or his brothers, the Pandavas, were all engaged in the service of the Lord Sri Krishna, and they had very little attraction for the illusionary happiness of this material world. As we have discussed previously, Maharaj Yudhishthira was fixed up in the service of the Lord Mukunda, the Lord who can award salvation. And therefore, he had no attraction even for such comforts of life as are available in the kingdom of heaven, because even the happiness obtained in the planet of Brahmaloka is also temporary and illusory. Because the living being is eternal, he can be happy only in the eternal abode of the kingdom of Lord Paravyamo. Okay, from which no one returns to this region of repeated birth and death, disease and old age. Therefore, any comforts of life or any material happiness which does not warrant an eternal life are but illusion for the eternal living being. One who understands this factually is learned, and such a learned person can sacrifice any amount of material happiness to achieve the desired goal known as Brahma Sukham or absolute happiness. Real transcendentalists are hungry for this happiness, and as a hungry man cannot be made happy by all comforts of life minus footstep, so the hungry man for eternal absolute happiness cannot be satisfied by any amount of material happiness. Therefore, the instruction described in this verse cannot be applied to Maharaj Yudhishthira or his brothers and mother. It was meant for persons like Dhritarashtra, from whom Vidura came especially to impart lessons.
Okay, Haribo, thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare
Can we
Krishna, bro. Thank you.
prayers? चेतोदर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावाग्निर्वापनं श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दाम्बुधिवर्धनं प्रतिपदां पूर्णामृतस्वदनं सर्वात्मस्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनम्
राम नाम कार्य बहुता निज सर्वशक्तिस्तत्रार्पिता नियमिता स्मरणेन कालः एतादृशीतो कृपा भगवान् ममापि दुर्दैव मे स्मयाजन्नानुरागा
ऋणादपि सुनीचेन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना अमानिना मानदेन कीर्तनीः सदा हरिः न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवताद् भक्तिरहैतुकी त्वयि
ऐनन्दतञ्जकिङ्करं भक्तं मां विस्मे भावधौ कृपया तौ पादपङ्कजस्थितधूलिसंविचिन्तय
नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गद हृदया गिरा पुलकैर्निचितं वपुः कदा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति युगायितं निमेषेन चक्षुषा प्रवर्षयितां शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दविरहे न मे. There is one more verse to come now. आश्लिष्य वा पादरतां विनस्तु माम् अदर्शनान् मर्महतां करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पटो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव नापरः.
Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules of chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by chanting your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige and ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Oh Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth.
O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
Oh my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And when will the hairs of my body stand on and at the recitation of your name?
O Govinda, feeling our separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly in his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.
Dibor, Sri Siksastakam ki jai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Bahujanma Karayati Shavana Kirtan Taputana Paya Krishna Pade Premadan. If one is infested with the 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, despite his endeavor to chant the holy name for many births, he will not get the love of God. That is the ultimate goal of this chanting. The 10 offenses against the holy name are as follows. The first offense is to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord.
Second of is to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the names of Lord Vishnu. Third offense to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. Fourth offense to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. Fifth offense to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imaginative. Sixth offense to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. Seventh offense to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name of the Lord. Eighth offense to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities karma kanda. Ninth offense to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. Tenth offense not to have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema.
Let us offer humble obeisances unto Let us offer all respectful, humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like these are trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च
वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।
अनन्तकोटिवैष्णव